Hi everybody. I just wanted to do a quick little video and answer some questions that I've been getting about coloring in my stamped images and what I use and just different things like that. And then I also want to share a quick tutorial on how I color in skin on my stamped images. So really quick, I just want to answer a few questions. What I use to color in my images is Prismacolor Premier colored pencils, and I can't zoom out when my camera's in video mode, so I just have to kind of show it to you like this. But this is the top of the box. It's a little tin box. And I got the big pack of 72. And I got these on eBay for, I want to say, about $45 or $50 with free shipping. So it was a really, really great deal. Especially if you compare to things like Copic markers that are quite a bit more expensive. So that's what I use, along with odorless mineral spirits, and I use the brand Gamsol, but you can find just 100% pure odorless mineral spirits at places like Michael's, Joann's, craft stores, art stores, whatever. And that's basically all this is. It's just a name brand that I bought online. I don't know. That's the only one I've tried, so I don't really know. I can't compare. But I'm pretty sure everything is just the same because it's all just 100% mineral spirits. So the other thing that you will need is a blending stump. What that is just basically like a little paper pencil. And this is used, you dip this in the odorless mineral spirits, and then after you've colored your image, you go in and blend, and you'll see that in a moment with my tutorial. Another thing that I use is Tuxedo Black Memento ink to stamp my images. The reason I use this is because it dries really fast, so as soon as I stamp it, I can start coloring, and it does not fade or bleed at all when I'm blending with my Gamsol. The other thing that I do recommend getting if you're getting into Prismacoloring is a a pencil sharpener that is specifically made for colored pencils. Now I have this Prismacolor brand one. It's a cool little bullet looking one that's really cute. And the reason I recommend this is because colored pencils and regular pencils aren't made equally. Colored pencils are only glued at the bottom of the barrel, whereas a normal pencil is glued completely all the way down the barrel of the pencil, so they kind of tend to break a little more easily, similar to the way like an eyeliner pencil would. So I recommend getting one pencil sharpener that's made for colored pencils so that you're not breaking and wasting your colored pencil. The other thing that you will also want to get is a really good heavy-duty cardstock. I use 110-pound weight that I get from allthatscraps.com. It's actually a Copic quality paper, but I really just like how thick it is. They do have like an 80-pound or whatever, but I really like the 110-pound because it's really nice and sturdy. So one other thing I wanted to tell you about the blending stump is you probably want to get a pack of a couple of these. Otherwise, you're going to be, you do need to clean them off after each color. And I did have two, but I seem to have lost one, so I'm constantly cleaning these off. And the way that you do that is either you can get like sandpaper or a nail file. If I've just got a tiny little bit of color, I'll usually just use a little nail file, a little emery board. If I've got a ton of color on there, I will go ahead and use just some sandpaper. And you just rub it along here, just like that. And you want to try and keep the point as much as possible, because in little tiny spaces, you know, you still need to get in there and blend. So you do want to try and keep that point as much as you can. So yeah, I think that's all of the products that I use for coloring. None of them are really super expensive other than the colored pencils. So it's a pretty affordable hobby. With me, it's actually become one of the main things that I do. along with scrapbooking. These are the two main things that I do now. For those of you who've been watching my channel for a while, you probably noticed that I used to do a lot of Cricut things and I kind of don't anymore. I still do use my Cricut for cards with my stamped images because I don't have like Nestabilities dies or anything like that. I just prefer to use my Cricut because I have it and I want to put it to use. So I still do use it, but not quite as much as I used to. So for me, it's well worth the investment of the colored pencils because I pretty much color almost every day. And it's just become kind of one of the main things that I love. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I color skin. I've already done a tutorial on a dress before, so if you haven't seen that, you can go on my channel and check that out. But for now, we're going to go ahead and do the skin. Now I use three main colors for my skin, and then I use let me see, that's the wrong one. And then I use one or two colors on the skin for blush, and today I'm going to be using blush pink. Sometimes I do use a carmine red, which is quite a bit darker, but today, and because he's a boy, I don't want him to look too blushy, so I will just use blush pink. So the three colors that I use other than blush pink, this is blush pink. The three main colors that I use for skin are light peach, which is PC 927, and then I use just straight peach, which is PC 939, and then I use burnt ochre, which is PC 943, and that's basically just for shadows, or I use it sometimes to make them look a little more tan. If I want them to look a little more tan rather than being so pale. I have really, really pale skin, so a lot of times I find myself coloring my images a little bit darker because I've always loved and wanted kind of a darker complexion, but my skin just doesn't get that way. So I do find myself kind of giving all my images like a tan sometimes. But anyways, so the first thing I start out with is light peach. And just basically kind of go in. Sorry if I'm casting shadows, I've got really bad lighting right now. But you're just going to color in your image kind of all over, and you can press pretty hard. The harder you press, the more color you're laying down, obviously, so the darker it's going to be. And with this color, it's really pale anyways, and then when you go and blend it out, it gets even lighter, so you can press pretty hard with this one, and it's not going to hurt anything. I'm going to go ahead and get his little ears in there. And you're not going to worry about if there's lines or anything like that right now, because we're going to blend it all out with our mineral spirits. Okay, so there's just a quick little covering right there. I'm going to take my blending stump and my Gamsol. Now this particular one has a little kind of dauber type top on here, and I'm just going to dip that on there, and you can see that it's getting wet. Just like that. Eventually this will evaporate, so you will need to re-wet it. But you're just going to kind of go in little circles and just kind of go over what you just did. And basically what this does is just breaks down the wax that's in the colored pencil, and it just blends that color really, really nicely, so that there's no lines or anything like that. That's basically what it does. And it doesn't take a lot to blend it out. Okay, I'm going to go back in with the light peach and just do one more little quick coat, because I do want him to look kind of tan. He is a skater boy, and if I forgot to mention, this little guy is from the Greeting Farm. He is from the later Skater set. Really super cute. And I'm going to go ahead and go back in. You don't need to re-wet your stump every time, especially if you're going to be blending a lot of colors. You kind of don't want to keep dipping it in, because then it can actually blend it all out so that the whole image becomes that darker color or the darkest color that you use, rather than having shades it kind of all becomes one color. So at this, I'm going to, I'm done with my light peach. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my blending stump and I'm going to really soak it down with Gamsol. And you're going to see it even down here. You want to get lots and lots of it in there because I do not want to have to re-dip it in now that I'm going to be using some other colors. So I'm going to take the peach color and let me put this down really quick. I'm just going to go in along his hairline and just kind of frame his face. One thing that you want to do that I forgot to mention in the beginning is you want to figure out where you want a light source to be in your image. You can pretend like there's a little sun or a spotlight in a certain area. It can either be top right, top left, just straight down from the top, or I like to pretend like they have a spotlight directly on them, which basically means that all of my shadows are going to be surrounding him and the lightest parts of him are going to be in the center. So I'm just going around basically the perimeter of everything. In his arms I don't worry too much because they're pretty small, so I don't actually go all the way around his arms, but around his face I do. I'm going to take my blending stump, and what you're going to do is kind of go over that peach color and kind of blend it down as far as it'll go in just little circular motions. And that just, as you can see, it kind of gives him a little bit of a darker complexion. Okay, just like that. Now if you wanted to, you could go in one more time, and I think I will. I'll go in one more time with my peach and just do a little bit more just to make him a little tiny bit darker. It's totally up to you on, how dark you want their complexion to be. And I'm just kind of blending it outward again, pulling it toward the center of his face. So you can kind of see now that the center of his face is the lightest, and we're going to actually accentuate that even more with our next color, which is burnt ochre. This is basically just going to be my shadow color, so I'm only going to do a little bit along his hairline, and you don't want to press too hard with this. And I'm just kind of following those lines around his hair. I'm going to do a little bit on his ears. Very lightly kind of on the bottom of his face, not too much there. And then down here on his neck. And then a little tiny bit on his arms where there would be shadow. Okay, we're going to take your blending stump. We're not re-dipping it, remember? We got it nice and wet before. So now this time, rather than going in circular motions, I'm kind of just dabbing at it just to blend it a little bit. And I'm not really pulling it out or down that much. I'm kind of just going over it and dabbing it. And that just kind of gives him, it gives a noticeable shadow line, but it's not like streaks, if that makes sense. Okay. And that really brings out the fact that the center of his face is the lightest. Okay, so you can see that right there. So he's got a little bit of a shadow there. Then I'm going to come in with my blush pink and just give him a little bit of a sun-kissed look. I don't want him to look like he's blushing. So I'm just going to kind of go in really lightly. And I'm going to take that same stump. We're not re-wetting it. We're not changing it. Just because it's a little bit of a different color, I'm not going to change it at all. I'm going to give him just a little bit more. I want it to be a little more noticeable. Alrighty, just like that. So there we have that. I'm going to blend this a little bit more. I don't know if I blended that last time. Doesn't look like I did. Alright, so there is the tutorial for the skin. Now one other thing that I do like to do is sometimes when you color the face, you can color in the whites of the eyes. And I don't know if you can tell, but they're a little bit peach looking, so I want them to be white. So I'm going to get my Signo white gel pen and just very, very carefully, let me get a piece of scratch paper really quick. I guess I could use this one. I'm just going to make sure that the ink's coming out so that it doesn't blob all over his eye. And I kind of just dab that right where that little white of his eye is. Sometimes, depending on my mood, I might put an extra little twinkle in the eye. I did that with these girls. I don't know if you can see. I did a tiny little dot on the side of the eye as well. So sometimes, depending on how I want them to look, I will do that as well, but for him I think I'm just going to leave him like that. So that's my tutorial for skin, and I hope that helped you guys out a little bit, and I hope I answered all of your questions about Prismacolors. If you ever do have any more, feel free to PM me or leave a comment or something, and I will hopefully be able to answer it for you. I'm fairly new to this. I am not a professional and I don't claim to be. I just am kind of sharing with you how I color with my Prismas. It's very simple and it's a lot of fun. So I hope you guys will try it out, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!